The weak ones from Earth. In the far corners of the galaxy, humans were known for one thing: weakness. Alien empires laughed whenever the name Earth was mentioned. The tall, proud warriors of the Sarnax, the winged hunters of the Kirali, and especially the powerful matriarchs of the Valari Empire, they all mocked the small blue planet. Human males. One Valari general once said, laughing, "They are soft like fruit, good for nothing except maybe cleaning our boots." For years, Earth stayed quiet. They avoided big wars. They sent trade ships, peace messages, and small teams to study alien life. Many humans believed in friendship, but the galaxy did not care about friendship. It cared about power. Then one day, a group of 5 human men was taken. It was supposed to be a science meeting on a neutral space station, but the Valari had other plans. They captured the humans and brought them to their secret research base. The men, scientists, engineers, and medics, were locked in glass cells. One of them was named Eli Ward. He was 33, smart, calm, and always thinking. He wasn't a soldier. He couldn't even lift heavy weights, but he had something else: a sharp mind and a quiet strength that no scanner could detect. Valari scientists came into the room. They were tall, silver-skinned women with glowing red eyes. They wore armor and spoke with cold voices. "Subjects appear calm," one of them said. "Begin phase 1. They took blood samples. They scanned the men's hearts and brains. They made them run, lift, and fight simulation robots. Of course, the humans were slower, weaker, and easily tired. The Valari laughed. "They're pathetic," said a warrior. "Why does the Queen waste her time on these creatures?" But not all Valari were laughing. One quiet scientist named Cirrus watched Eli closely. She noticed something strange. His heart rate stayed steady under stress. His body healed a small wound in just hours. Even the brain scans showed fast neural growth. "This one is different," she whispered. That night, Cirrus ran more tests on Eli's blood. What she saw made her heart race. "Human cells," she said, "are changing, adapting, growing stronger under pressure." She went to her commander. "I need permission to continue deeper tests," she said. "Human males might hold a secret we don't understand." The commander laughed. "You want to study them. They're pets, Cirrus. Toys. Nothing more." But Cirrus didn't stop. She started secretly watching all 5 men. She saw things others didn't. One man, Jonas, calmed down an aggressive alien beast just by speaking softly. Another, Malik, fixed a broken machine without knowing the alien technology. Something inside them was waking up. Meanwhile, the human men started talking in whispers. "Why are they testing us?" Jonas asked. "They think we're weak," said Eli. "But they're missing something." "What?" Malik asked. Eli looked at the stars through the glass wall. "They see our bodies, not our will, not our minds." The next day, Cirrus gave the Queen her report. "Your Majesty," she said, kneeling, "I believe human men are not as weak as we thought. Their DNA is reacting to our environment faster than any known species. They might be the key to solving our fertility crisis." The Queen stood tall and silent. She was older than 100 Earth years, yet still strong. Her race, the Valari, was dying slowly. They could no longer produce strong offspring. Their power was fading. "If what you say is true," the Queen said, "then we must test this theory. Begin Project Genesis." Cirrus bowed. "Yes, my Queen." Back in the cells, Eli had a strange feeling. Something big was coming. The way the guards looked at them had changed. No more jokes. No more laughter. Now they were watching, carefully. That night, Eli had a dream. In it, he saw Earth burning, cities falling. But from the ashes, something new was born. A child with glowing eyes, standing between worlds. He woke up in sweat. Across from him, Ceres stood outside his glass wall. "You," she said softly, "are not what we believed." Eli looked at her, confused. "What do you want from us?" Ceres paused. Then she said the words that changed everything. "We want your children." The experiment begins. Eli stared at Ceres through the glass wall. Her words echoed in his mind. "We want your children." He didn't know what she meant. At least not completely. But he could see something had changed, the way the guards moved, the way the scientists watched them now. It was no longer mockery. It was curiosity, mixed with fear. The 5 human men were moved into a new area, larger, warmer, and cleaner. No more cold cells. Each man had a private room, soft bedding, and strange glowing plants to help them relax. But Eli and the others knew this wasn't kindness. It was part of something bigger. Project Genesis had begun. Ceres, the Valari scientist, walked through the corridor, her long silver robes brushing the floor. She held a glowing tablet filled with data about the human men. "Their DNA is more adaptive than anything we've studied," she told her assistant. "It reacts like a living algorithm, changing with every new environment." "But they're still physically weak," the assistant replied. Ceres nodded. "Yes, but that doesn't matter anymore. It's not about strength. It's about survival. And humans, especially the males, seem to carry a trait we've lost: genetic rebirth." Back in their new rooms, the human men were being watched 24/7. Drones floated above them. Walls recorded every word they spoke. One day, guards came to Eli's door. They didn't drag him. They politely asked him to follow. That was even more frightening. They took him to a round chamber with glowing blue walls. In the center was a table. On the other side stood a Valari woman, not a scientist, not a warrior. She wore a white robe and had markings on her face that showed high status. "I am Valari, first daughter of House Ryle," she said. "I've been chosen to begin the Genesis trial with you." Eli blinked. "Trial? What does that mean?" Valari narrowed her eyes. "Our race is dying. For over a generation, we have failed to produce strong offspring. Our eggs are healthy. Our bodies are strong. But our genetics are empty, cold." She stepped closer. "You humans carry something different, something alive. And the Queen believes our only hope is union." Eli stepped back. "You want me to father a child with you?" Valari didn't blink. "Yes, not for love, for survival." Eli shook his head. "I'm not a machine. I'm not here to save your empire." He expected her to get angry. But instead, Valari smiled. A sad, tired smile. "I understand. But you should know, our people once laughed at yours. Now they watch you with quiet fear. If the Queen is right, you are the future. And not just for us." Back in the observation room, Ceres watched everything. She wasn't interested in romance or politics. She wanted results. Valari and Eli were monitored every second. No forced action. The Queen had ordered it clearly. "This union must be natural. We cannot force life. Only offer the choice." Days passed. Eli and Valari talked more. She asked about Earth, about music, food, and oceans. He asked about her world, her people, her loneliness. Something began to change between them. Not just curiosity, but something warmer, something human. And then, it happened. 3 weeks later, Ceres called an emergency meeting. "The embryo has formed," she announced, "and it is stable." The room fell silent. Valari scientists stared at the screen. A small glowing sphere floated inside a pod. Half human, half Valari. Its energy levels were off the charts. "It shouldn't be possible," one whispered. But it was real. The Queen watched from her throne, her face still and cold. Then she gave a single nod. "Continue." While the others were still being studied, strange things began to happen. Jonas, One of the other humans was accidentally injured during a test. His arm was badly cut. The Valari rushed him to a medpod. But before they could even begin healing him, they saw something incredible. His wound was already closing. Fast, too fast. Cirrus checked the scans. He's changing. His DNA is copying Valari cell behavior. How? Someone asked. We haven't done anything to him. Yes, Cirrus said. But the air here, the food, the environment, it's already begun. Back in his room, Malik was meditating, a habit from Earth. As he breathed, the lights around him started flickering. He didn't notice, but the sensors picked it up. His brain was releasing signals that were affecting the tech. Human men were not just adapting. They were awakening. Whispers began to spread through the Valari Empire. Human men can heal. They can adapt. They can merge with our blood. Some were excited. Others were terrified. The Queen called Cirrus again. You must confirm it, she said. Are human men truly compatible with us? Cirrus looked her in the eye. They're more than compatible, Your Majesty. They're evolving. Faster than anything we've seen. And then, late one night, as Cirrus sat alone in her lab, staring at the growing hybrid embryo, the embryo moved. Not like a twitch, not like a normal response. It raised a tiny hand toward the glass. The motion sensor pinged, and Cirrus froze. It wasn't just moving. It was aware. The Queen's demand. The news of the hybrid embryo spread like fire through the Valari Empire. At first, only the top scientists knew. Then the royal court. Then the military. Then the people. And with every whisper, the words repeated like thunder in every corridor. A human male has done what no Valari warrior could, create life. The Queen, tall and powerful, stood in the center of her royal chamber. The walls shimmered with energy. She wore armor carved from the bones of ancient beasts. Her face, usually unreadable, now held something strange. Urgency. Cirrus knelt before her. The embryo is stable, she said. It grows rapidly. Faster than expected. It is aware. The Queen narrowed her glowing red eyes. Explain. Cirrus took a breath. At only 3 weeks, the hybrid shows signs of neural activity we've never seen. Brain waves are off the scale. It moved its hand toward the glass. The Queen turned to the high-ranking officials around her, scientists, warlords, and elder matriarchs. You all mocked Earth, she said. You mocked their men. But now, their blood carries our last hope. Some in the room remained silent. Others whispered. A few scowled in disbelief. Then the Queen raised her voice. I will not watch our race fade into darkness. If the key lies in human males, then we will use it. She turned back to Cirrus. Find the strongest of them, not the kindest, not the smartest. The one with the fire. I want him next. Cirrus hesitated. You mean Eli? The Queen shook her head. No. Bring me the one who refuses to kneel. The one who looks at his cage like it's already broken. Cirrus understood. She stood and left the chamber. Back in the human wing, Malik sat cross-legged on the floor of his room. His eyes were closed, breathing calm. But inside, he was burning. He had seen the changes in Eli. He had heard the stories from the guards. Something was happening to them all. Their bodies were healing faster. Their senses were sharper. They could feel things, like the emotions of the aliens near them, like the heartbeat of the ship itself. And Malik hated it. They treat us like tools, he muttered. Like animals. The door to his room opened. Cirrus entered. You've been chosen, she said. Malik looked up slowly. Chosen? For what? The Queen wants to meet you. She has a request. The Queen's throne room was colder than Malik expected. Wide. Empty. Only her and 2 guards. Malik stood before her, arms crossed. I don't bow, he said. She smiled. Good. I don't need more men who obey. I need one who fights. She walked down the steps, her boots echoing. Our race is ending, Malik of Earth. Our blood is tired, empty. But yours is awake. Malik didn't answer. His eyes scanned the room, looking for escape routes, traps, weapons. The Queen stopped in front of him. I want you to father a child, not with force, with choice. But understand this, if you say no, your people may never leave this place. The other empires already know what's happening. If we don't act, they will. Malik stepped back. You're using us. The Queen didn't deny it. And you would use us too, if Earth was dying. Malik's hands tightened into fists. I didn't come here to make alien babies, he growled. I came to learn, to build. Not this. The Queen leaned closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. What if your child could be the bridge between our worlds? What if they could stop wars before they start? Would you walk away from that? Malik didn't respond, but the question hung in the air like a blade. Elsewhere in the station, Eli noticed the change. Guards now treated him with respect, fear even. One brought him food and whispered, "The Queen chose another, not you." Eli felt something twist inside. Was it jealousy? Relief? He wasn't sure. He turned to Valari, the Valari woman who had bonded with him. "Do you think we're still prisoners?" he asked. Valari paused. "No, you're something much more dangerous now." Days later, the results came in. Malik's pairing had worked. Another embryo. 2 hybrids now. Both strong. Both growing faster than anything the Valari had ever seen. The Queen smiled for the first time in years. It has begun. But deep within the shadows of the Empire, not everyone was pleased. In secret halls, elder Valari warriors gathered. "This is wrong," one hissed. "We mix our blood with them." Another slammed her fist. "The Queen has gone mad. She bows to Earth." They called themselves the Pure Flame, a rebel faction. Ancient, dangerous. They had one mission now: kill the hybrids and end the humans before it's too late. Back in the lab, Sarah studied the latest scans. The second embryo was different, even stronger than the first, but something else too. It had developed something the Valari had long lost: a heartbeat in sync with another. She checked the scan again. Yes, the embryo was feeling the emotions of the human male. It was connected, alive, real, not just a project anymore. It was a child. And far across space, other empires had begun to listen. Kyrali scouts sent secret probes. Sarnax spies offered weapons to the Pure Flame. The balance of power was shifting. The age of mocking humans was ending. And something new, something terrifying, was being born in its place. The rebellion within. It began with a scream in the dark. A Valari guard rushed into the lab, eyes wide with fear. Blood stained her armor. One hand clutched her side. "They're here," she gasped. "The Pure Flame. They've attacked." Before Cirrus could speak, the lights flickered and went red. A deep alarm echoed through the research station. Emergency barriers slammed down. Drones buzzed to life, weapons ready. Inside their rooms, the 5 human men felt the change immediately. Eli pressed his hand to the glass. "Something's wrong." Jonas stood beside him. "This isn't a drill, is it?" "No," Eli said. "This is real." Across the station, Malik was in a medical scan chamber. He had just completed another round of genetic testing. A Valari warrior stood guard outside, tall and silent. Suddenly, the wall behind her exploded. Smoke and fire filled the corridor. Shadows moved through the mist, figures wearing black armor with red flame symbols on their chests. The Pure Flame had arrived. They weren't just rebels. They were fanatics, old Valari warriors who believed their blood should never mix with outsiders, especially not humans. One of them pointed at Malik. "The breeder dies first." The guard tried to defend him. She blocked 2 shots before one hit her in the chest. She fell, not dead, but badly wounded. Malik ducked behind the scan pod, heart racing. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained to fight. But something inside him snapped, an instinct, a spark. He grabbed a broken pipe and waited. When the rebel came close, Malik struck. The metal hit the alien's helmet, cracking it open. The rebel stumbled. Malik hit again, and again, and again. By the time it was over, the rebel lay still. Malik dropped the pipe. His hands were shaking, but he was alive. And more importantly, so was the child inside the lab. Elsewhere in the base, Eli was being moved. 2 guards rushed him through the hallways, weapons drawn. Suddenly, shots rang out. One of the guards fell. The other tried to return fire, but too late. A rebel stepped from the shadows, aiming a plasma blade at Eli. But before the blade could strike, a blur of silver armor slammed into the attacker. Commander Vexa. She was one of the Queen's elite guards, a legend among the Valari. Feared, respected, and she had just saved a human. Vexa stood over the rebel's body and turned to Eli. "Come with me if you want to live." Eli blinked. "Wait, why are you helping me?" "No time," she growled, grabbing his arm. They ran through burning halls, sliding under closing doors. Explosions rocked the station. The screams of battle echoed behind them. They reached a hidden chamber deep underground. A safe zone. Thick walls. No scanners. Eli collapsed, gasping. "You could have left me. Why didn't you?" Vexa looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I don't know." She sat down beside him, her armor scratched and smoking. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Eli asked quietly, "You used to hate us, didn't you?" Vexa nodded. "Yes." "Why?" Vexa looked away. "Because I was taught to. Because I believed strength meant control. That our blood was superior. That humans were a joke. And now," she turned her eyes to him, "now I see strength isn't about muscles or weapons. It's about standing when you have every reason to fall. And you never bowed, even when we caged you." Eli didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. In that silence, something soft passed between them. Not love, not yet, but respect. The beginning of something new. Meanwhile, Ceres worked in panic. Both embryos were in danger. The pure flame had already breached 3 labs. They would reach the incubation chambers soon. She contacted the Queen. "We must move them off-world. The hybrids won't survive here." The Queen's voice was calm. Too calm. "I have already sent a ship. Protect them until then." Ceres gritted her teeth. "I can only hold them back for so long." The Queen replied, "Then fight. For our future." In another sector, Malik had found his way to the incubation wing. He saw Ceres working fast, her hands flying over the controls. "I thought you hated us," he said. Ceres didn't look up. "I thought I understood the galaxy. I was wrong." An explosion rocked the wall. The rebels were almost through. Ceres turned to him. "If they breach this chamber, the embryos die." Malik stared at the tanks. 2 glowing orbs filled with life. His heart pounded. "I'll hold them off," he said. "You'll die," she warned. "Then at least I'll die for something that matters." He grabbed a weapon from the wall. A stun cannon, heavy but charged. As the door began to crack open, Malik took a deep breath. He thought of Earth. He thought of his family. And he thought of the unborn child whose life was now in his hands. The rebels entered with fire. Malik met them with thunder. The chamber shook with light and fury. Hours later, the emergency ended. The rebels had failed. Some escaped. Many died. Malik was found unconscious beside the embryo chamber, wounded but alive. Eli and Vexa emerged from hiding, covered in ash and silence. And Ceres. She stood beside the glowing pods, hand pressed gently to the glass. They survived. The Queen watched the footage in silence. Then she turned to her council. The humans bleed for us, fight for us, protect our future more than our own warriors. She stood. No longer are they prisoners. From this moment, they are allies. One elder protested, "You would honor them, Earthlings." The Queen's eyes flashed. They are not just men from Earth. They are fathers of the next generation of Valari. But far beyond the stars, the Kareli Empire prepared for war. And deep in the void, something ancient began to wake. Because if human men could create life with the strongest warriors in the galaxy, what else were they capable of? The Alliance of Hope. The galaxy had never paid much attention to Earth. For centuries, Earth was seen as weak, small, barely crawling out of its cradle. A backwater planet full of strange creatures who talked too much and fought each other over dirt and flags. But now, everything had changed. The Valari Queen made a public transmission, broadcast to over 50 worlds in 3 galaxies. The survival of our people now depends on the men of Earth. They are not weak. They are not lesser. They are essential, and we will protect them as our own. That message echoed through every star system. The news spread faster than light. Human males could breed with alien queens. Not just any queens. Valari, the most powerful female-led empire in the known universe. The warrior race that once crushed planets for fun. Now, they were guarding a handful of Earthmen with their lives. On Earth, the reaction was chaos. Governments were stunned. News stations called it the Galactic Revelation. Protesters marched in the streets, some waving signs that said, "Don't sell our sons," while others shouted, "Make the stars human." In the United Nations Lunar Embassy, Earth's leaders gathered in silence. On a large screen, they saw the images. 5 human men standing beside glowing alien women. 2 hybrid embryos floating in secure stasis chambers. And in the middle of it all, Eli Ward, now known across space as the Father of Stars. President Amara of Earth stood and spoke firmly. "We sent scientists. We got gods in return." Some wanted to pull the men back. Others said to leave them. Too dangerous, too alien now. But one woman, a quiet ambassador from Kenya, said something that made the whole room stop. "Maybe this is not the end of who we are. Maybe this is how we grow." The room fell silent. And then the messages started to arrive. The Avari matrons sent their request first. A cold-blooded reptilian race of scholars and healers, ruled by a council of mothers. Their message was calm. "We have lost the ability to bond with our young. We believe human presence may restore this. We request connection." Next came the Kaileni, an amphibious race with blue skin and glowing hair. "Our genetic line is failing. We seek union with Earth's men, not for empire, for survival." Then even stranger species sent their signals. Insectoid queens, crystal-bodied creatures who communicated through light. One even spoke in musical tones. All of them wanted the same thing: hope. Back on the Valari station, Eli sat in the gardens with Vexa. The sky above them showed a soft artificial glow, mimicking a sunset. Vexa was quieter now, more thoughtful. Her armor was off. She wore soft robes, the mark of peace. "I used to think you were fragile," she said. Eli chuckled. "I still am." "No," Vexa said. "You bend, but you don't break." They sat in silence for a while. Then Vexa spoke again, more serious. "Others are coming. Other queens. They want what we found." Eli nodded. "I heard. Ceres told me. They're all asking for Earthmen." Vexa looked at him carefully. "Will you go with them?" He didn't answer at first. Finally, he said, "I didn't come here to be part of a revolution. But maybe it came to me." In the medical wing, Malik had finally healed from the attack. His embryo, his child, was stable and growing fast. Ceres watched the scans daily, quietly amazed. "You know what's strange? Malik said one day. I never wanted kids. Cirrus looked at him. And now? Malik smiled. Now I want the galaxy to survive. And if my kid is part of that, then I'll protect them with my life. But peace would not last. Far in the outer rim, a transmission was intercepted. The Kyrelli Empire, a warlike species with wings and venom-tipped claws, had declared the Valari experiments a crime against evolution. Their leader, a feathered matron named Queen Cthulhu, shouted in rage, "Humans are dangerous. They do not belong among the stars. Their seed is poison. We will not bow to their infection." And she wasn't alone. Several smaller empires agreed. They feared the hybrids, feared what human genetics could do, feared Earth rising from the dust to become a galactic power. "We must strike now," said Cthulhu, "before the next generation rises." War was coming. The Valari Queen met with Earth's diplomats again, but this time not in secret. They stood side by side, she in shining armor, they in suits, and together they sent a message to the galaxy. We choose unity. We choose life. Any attack on these men is an act of war. Across Earth, people watched. In the stars, other races listened. And in the deep places of space, something ancient stirred. Something older than the empires, a species that had slept for millennia. And now it was awake. Why? Because something had changed in the cosmic balance. Because human men, once mocked and ignored, were now creating children that could shape fate itself. And the universe, it was watching. War or salvation. The stars were no longer quiet. Across the galaxy, fleets moved like shadows. Thousands of warships from the Kyrelli Empire, the Sarnax clans, and others who feared the rise of humanity, gathered in the darkness. They called it the Purification. Their mission was clear. Destroy the Valari hybrids. Eliminate the human males. End Earth's influence before it began. But deep inside the Valari stronghold, under miles of reinforced metal and force shields, two tiny hearts beat in unison. One was Ili's child, the other, Malik's. Both were hybrids, part human, part Valari, and growing faster than anything science could explain. The scientists had tried to understand it. Their machines couldn't. The priests had tried to explain it. Their beliefs collapsed. The warriors had seen it, and for the first time in centuries, they were afraid. Because these children were more than just life. They were change. Inside the hidden birthing chamber, Ceres moved fast. Sweat covered her silver skin as she checked the monitors. Both embryos were reaching final growth. Too soon. Too fast. "This isn't natural," she said. "It's accelerated. Like they're responding to the outside world." Malik stood beside her, his hand on the glass of the pod that held his unborn child. "They know," he whispered. Eli stood next to his pod, quiet but alert. "They feel what we feel," he said. "They know war is coming." Behind them, Commander Vexa entered the room in full battle armor. "The Kyrelli fleet has entered Valari space. They've already destroyed 2 outposts. They'll be here in less than 6 hours." Cirrus turned sharply. "We can't move the embryos. The transfer would kill them now. We need more time." Vexa looked at Eli. "Then we hold the line." Above the planet, the sky turned to fire. Thousands of Kyrelli warships blocked out the sun. Their wings glowed red. Their leader, Queen Cthulhu, stood at the front of her flagship. "Let the Valari burn," she hissed, "and let their little humans die screaming." She raised her claw. And the attack began. The Valari defense systems lit up. Missiles flew. Plasma beams scorched the sky. Fighters screamed through space like angry insects. Inside the stronghold, alarms blared. Eli, Malik, Vexa, and Cirrus rushed into the command chamber. The Queen stood at the center, her face hard as stone. "The galaxy fears our future," she said. "Let them fear our strength." She turned to the humans. Your children are more than science. They are symbols. If they survive, we all have a future. If they die, we all fall. The first wave hit the outer walls. Kyrali warriors swarmed like hornets, winged, fast, deadly. Velari defenders met them with blasters and blades. The sky shook with explosions. Eli grabbed a stun rifle. He'd never fired one before. "You sure you can fight?" Vexa asked. "No," Eli said, smiling grimly. "But I'm not letting them take my child." Malik stood beside him. "Let's show them what Earthmen can really do." Inside the birthing chamber, something was happening. The hybrid pods began to glow. Cirrus watched in awe. They're reacting to the war, as if they know they're the reason it's being fought. The lights in the room dimmed. A strange hum filled the air. Machines started malfunctioning. And then, both pods opened. No alarms, no warnings, just silence. Then two cries. Soft, powerful, alive. Eli turned, breath catching. He walked slowly to the platform. There, wrapped in glowing cloth, was his child. Not fully Velari, not fully human. Something more. The baby looked up at him with eyes that shimmered, one blue, one silver. Malik stepped forward, stunned. His own child, smaller but just as radiant, reached toward him. And in that moment, something rippled across the galaxy. On the battlefield, both Velari and Kyrili suddenly stopped. A wave of energy pulsed outward from the planet, from the chamber. It wasn't destructive. It was emotional. A wave of feeling. Joy, fear, love, grief. Everything the children felt, they shared. And every creature that had a mind felt it. Pilots dropped their weapons. Soldiers wept. Commanders froze. Even Queen Thar'Kell staggered on her bridge, gasping. "What is this? What are they?" In the chamber, Saris dropped to her knees. These children are not just hybrid. They're not just life. They are. She looked up at Eli and Malik. They're the next step. Eli held his child close. The baby's heartbeat synced with his. Malik's child blinked, then opened her mouth and released a sound. Not a cry. A note. A tone. The walls vibrated with it. Far above, the Kyrali war fleet began, turning. Not out of fear. Out of understanding. Something in them had changed. Queen Thar'Kell fell to her knees on the command bridge, tears in her eyes. "I saw a future," she whispered. "One where we didn't have to conquer." Back on the planet, the Velari Queen received the ceasefire message. The Kyrali wish to negotiate. They no longer seek blood. They seek answers. She turned slowly to the chamber where the children had been born. To the humans who had been mocked. To the future that had just saved them all. That night, the war ended without another shot. No treaties. No bribes. Just truth. And two children who had reminded the galaxy what it meant to feel. A new galactic order. It began with laughter. Not from a warrior. Not from a queen. But from a child. A sound that echoed through 1,000 speakers across the Velari stronghold. Eli's child, named Lyra, giggled softly as she reached for a floating drone. Her tiny fingers glowed faintly with light, and the machine spun gently in the air, as if dancing just for her. Beside her, Malik's daughter, Solari, watched with wide eyes. Where Lyra glowed with soft radiance, Solari shimmered with electric pulses beneath her bronze skin. She didn't laugh. She simply watched, deeply aware of everything around her. They were only a week old. Yet their minds were already learning at a speed no one could explain. Across the galaxy, the war had stopped. Not because of weapons, not because of fear, but because of two children, born from the union of two human men and two alien mothers. They had sent a feeling across the stars, a wave of shared emotion that no translator could capture, but every species understood. Peace, connection, the potential to be more. On Earth, the world had changed forever. Governments that once called the men traitors now called them heroes. Children in classrooms studied their names: Eli Ward, Malik Jorah, Jonas Black, Noah Lynn, and Rafiq Stone, the five fathers of the future. Statues were built in their honor. Cities named streets after them, but none of them returned home. They had chosen to stay out there, among the stars, where their children were now the seeds of something bigger than Earth had ever imagined. The Valari Empire had changed too. The Queen passed a new law. No more are human males to be kept in cages. No more shall they be mocked or controlled. They are partners, equals, and guardians of our next generation. The Valari Senate protested at first. They are still men, still human. But the Queen silenced them with just 5 words. They saved us from ourselves. And so began the new galactic order. It wasn't just politics or borders or power. It was something deeper, a shift in belief. The idea that strength didn't come from domination, but from creation. That unity wasn't weakness, but evolution. That empathy could shake a warship more than any cannon. Eli and Vexa raised Lyra in a quiet sky garden above the Valari capital. Each day, Lyra learned 10 new languages. Each week, she asked deeper questions. By month 3, she could control light fields with her hands. One day, as Eli told her stories of Earth, she looked up and asked, "Why did they fear you, Papa?" Eli smiled sadly. "Because we were different, and because we came from a place they thought didn't matter." She tilted her head. "But it does now." "Yes," he said, "because of you." Malik raised Solari with Cirrus on a floating observatory near the moon of Kelvari. Solari didn't speak much, but when she did, her words were like music, every syllable pulsing with meaning. She could hear feelings, even across space. She calmed storms just by humming. And sometimes, she dreamed of planets no one had discovered yet. One evening, she asked Malik, "Was I meant to be a weapon?" Malik took her hand. "You were meant to be hope." The other 3 men, Jonas, Noah, and Rafiq, also became part of the new world. Each formed bonds with alien empires that once mocked them. Each helped raise children who could reshape energy, emotion, and even gravity. And each man held to one simple truth. Humanity wasn't the strongest species, but it was the most adaptable, the most unpredictable, the most alive. Other species soon followed. The Avari bred with humans and recovered their lost healing gifts. The Kaileni returned to the oceans of their dying world, now with human children who could breathe underwater and sing to the coral. The once feared Sarnax clans forged peace treaties, hoping their own children might one day be born with human hearts. Even Queen Catherix, once ready to destroy Earth, adopted a human orphan left behind after a mining war. She named him Terran, and he would one day grow to lead a new empire. And Earth. Earth became a symbol, not of power, but of potential. A small blue planet that had sent 5 men into the stars, and in return, received a future more beautiful than anyone could have dreamed. Years passed, then decades. Lyra and Solari grew into legends. Some said Lyra could light up a city with a smile. Some said Solari once stopped a solar storm with a whisper. Others said they would live for centuries. No one knew for sure. But this much was true. The galaxy no longer laughed at human men. Now, they listened when they spoke. They looked to Earth not with mockery, but with respect. And everywhere the children of Earth and alien queens walked. The stars bent just a little brighter.